Are you allowed to be a dreadlocks Rastaman from Brixton on the street of SW9 and have a sauce that's outselling the biggest selling sauce in the fucking country?
At 23, did you feel some element of imposter syndrome or whatever without skipping a beat? Whenever we have someone up here, I'm always so struck by how much self-belief they had in their product or service.
I try to get people to say, for me to be me, to agree to, because I would think to a lot of people that I'm better when I'm me, and I have my guitar. I went to see my mom. She said, go and pick up the Bible. She says, if you go to the Dragon Den and you be you, she says, if you go as you will come back as a dragon slayer. And I was just like, damn, mom, that's like some lyrics there. Come back to dragon slayer. It's so nice, I had to name it twice. I call it Reggae Reggae Sauce. So nice with your fried chicken. Make burgers finger licking. On your barbecue, on your drumsticks, just put some Reggae Reggae Sauce on your dish. Always gonna start like that. It's my mantra, yes.
That is your mantra. So, hey, it's amazing to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Guys, first of all, Levi, can you just give us a bit of background? If you haven't heard of Levi's background, tell us a little bit about your history and then we'll take it from there.
Well, it always starts, with a bit of sort of dramatic story. And my dramatic story is about the Windrush generation. I was a Windrush child. Windrush, for those who don't know, was the first immigration from the Caribbean come over to this country here. It started in 1948, just after the war. The country was in devastation after the bombing of Hitler's Luftwaffes. So I suppose they sent a message to the Caribbean that, people needed to come here because there was gold dust on the ground to be picked up. And my parents heard the same news, that there was gold dust on the ground to be picked up. So they traveled to come over as part of the Windrush generation. But when they got here, they quickly realized that gold dust that was promised is actually dog shits. And they had to pick it up. But my parents, like many people from the Caribbean, were hard workers because they knew that they had their children that they wanted to bring to the UK and help to form. My mother was a nurse, so she went straight into King's College Hospital, working in the hospital there. My father worked for the council. They left 6 children in Jamaica with my grandmother, who was an amazing cook there. But every year, I saw the same scenario happen, just the same, but like with every Caribbean family back then, from 1948 to the 70s. That every year, they would really work hard, 3 or 4 jobs, and send for the kids one at a time.
Oh, wow.
So we were all staying with my grandmother in just one big bed, all 6 kids plus my grandmother. And every morning I would wake up on the bloody floor because being the youngest, my brothers and sisters would nick me out the fucking bed and I would end up on the floor. But every sort of year, once a year, I would be in the fields and I would hear my grandma calling me, like, the dinner is ready. And I'd be like, come running home, and I would see her in tears, absolutely crying her eyes out. And on the other side of her, I would see a brown suitcase. But I didn't realize what was happening is because we slept in that one big bed together, and I was just thinking that, one of my brothers and sisters is leaving, but there's more room in the fucking bed for me, being the youngest. And one day I heard the call, dinner ready, and I come running around and saw her in tears and saw the brown suitcase. And just as I was about to rub my hands to get some more room in the bed, I realized that all my brothers and sisters were gone, and I was the final one. But my granny, she was teaching me how to cook. She was an amazing cook, and she made this jerk sauce. That when she made it in Clarendon, where we are from, in Jamaica, the whole sort of village would come round for her cooking, because he could smell that sauce for miles. And from I was like 6 years old, I was like a sous chef, like going around and picking the ingredients for it. So when that time came, when I came on and I saw the brown suitcase and I saw her in tears, it was the saddest moment of my life because I knew that I was about to leave her. I didn't really know my mom and dad because they left when I was like 5 years old.
And they were in the UK?
They came to the UK to send for us one at a time. So I didn't really have a relationship with them. So the only person that I knew as mom, dad, the cat, and the dog, and everything was my granny.
Yeah.
And the cooking lessons that she used to taught me, and she packed that suitcase full of the key ingredients in jerk sauce, which is something called pimento.
Yeah.
Or the English name for it is allspice, and that's the key ingredients in jerk sauce that she used to make. So I was always associated with the love from her because she knew that I'd missed my mom and dad, and she had to give me that special love as the youngest. But she was also teaching me how to make this sauce because she never taught my other fucking brothers or sisters. I gotta tell you that. She gave the recipe to me, passed it down to me through her teaching. And I came to the UK with that love from her and that respect of music. She was also a great singer in the Baptist church as well, too. So I took on that musical stuff from her as well of being somebody that loves the food and the cooking. And came here, and years later, I started, my sauce business in my local Brixton, and the rest is history.
So tell me about that, because I actually don't know. I mean, obviously your journey started for me when you went on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
And it's funny, my mom's never really wanted to come to any one of these events until she heard that Levi was speaking.
Yeah.
And she's like, when? No, she couldn't make it. She had a hip operation.
I love you, mommy.
She had a hip operation, so she couldn't make it. But I don't actually know then, how old were you when you landed in the UK?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was almost 12. I couldn't spell my first name. Couldn't read or write because I was the youngest in Jamaica in those days. All the school money was spent on the older kids, so they could come to the UK first and get a job and running to school and starting. But I was 6 when my parents left. So, that means I never went to school. So
Yeah.
by the time I got here, I was really struggling badly, having to catch up.
So when you moved here at 12, did you have to try integrate into normal school?
Absolutely. And it was the worst time because I got to say that was the times of, no dogs, no Irish, no blacks. And it was really a hard time in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Here and trying to fit in and plus being in school. And I couldn't spell my first name, which only had 5 letters, by the way. Yeah. So it was really hard for me to try and not to follow the crowd.
Yeah.
Which I did. Because if you're not good at the curriculum, then you have to be good at making jokes and trying to show up in front of your friends and that. And unfortunately, that's what I had to be. So my first set of years here was a real struggle.
And then you said would you say your first entrepreneurial venture was music?
It was music. I joined a sound system when I left school. Everyone had cool names at the time and was joining sound systems and stuff. And my father had given me the name of a Scottish warlord. And I used to think about, I need to change this bloody name from what my father had given me. He'd given me the name of Keith Valentine Graham. So I looked up I looked up names and see where this name come from, and I saw that in one of the history books that Grahams come from a Scottish background. And I just kept looking in the mirror thinking that I don't look fucking Scottish. Something's got to happen. I got to change something to feel me as who I am as a person. And I gave myself the name Levi Roots. Yeah. And that was the journey into music. And toured with everybody who was anybody in the music with me, in reggae music. And thought that was my life. It's going to be, everything was about music. But there was another turn, another twist to come a bit later on.
Oh, wow. So you started music, and then when did you start what was your first entrepreneurial journey? Was it music? And then after that?
So music, I was lucky enough that I got nominated for a MOBO Awards. I toured with Maxi Priest and James Brown, and, and had a real cultured life, when it comes to music touring around the world. But someone introduced me to the Notting Hill Carnival. Yeah, it was amazing. And I went to the carnival and I saw that this was a plethora of smells and food and music. Music and food merged together. And I knew that I had my grandmother's sauce. And by then, when I went to the carnival, the bottom had fell out of the music.
How old were you at this?
I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I was perhaps 28.
Yeah.
And music the bottom had fell out the music business, and I found that I needed to think to be something different. And I went to the carnival, and after a couple of years, I got my first stall.
Yeah.
And I gave the name of the stall the Levi Roots Restaurant.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I'd written this song, about my grandmother and about the sauce and everything. And And I wanted to do like what the carnival was doing, which was merging music and food together, which gave me, because even though I'd stopped touring, what the opportunity to keep the music going and merge that with both my passions, music and food, and merge that together. And be at the carnival, it's so nice, I had to name it twice. And it was just amazing to see how people just came to the stall and, and was really not buying into the food. I think they were buying into more,
The brand.
The brand of this Rastaman there, telling stories and singing songs. And every year it was the most amazing stall at the carnival, And I used to feel a little bit peeved because the stall on the road that I was on in Westbourne Park Road, every other stall would be empty, and my store would be like a mile long with the queue, because people were just queuing up to get a hold of, what's happening here with this guy singing these songs and selling this sort, and it was just amazing.
So I've got a question for you then. You spoke a lot about coming across here. It was difficult to fit in. And then I would imagine, I'm an immigrant originally from South Africa, moved here.
That's where my bag's from.
Oh, that's it. That's awesome. Is that a crocodile?
Cape Town.
I think it's a crocodile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cape Town, yeah.
So I understand the idea of, I guess we all have been there trying to fit in, right? And then sometimes when you try to fit in, I feel like you kind of lose a little bit of yourself in that process.
Yeah, 100%.
And tell me about, because it sounds like your success started from being more authentic with like, hey, I'm a reggae singer. I'm here. I'm gonna blend me and my unique ability and my reggae and my music. So if you could speak to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember when I first decided that I wanted to be me. I wanted not to sell the sauce in the bottle. I wanted to sell Levi Roots. And when I was at the carnival, I was there and we made our first batch of the sauce. We make 67 bottles every time we make the prep with my grandmother's prep recipe. So we would batch up the sauce with my kids, in my little flat in Brixton. And because Brixton Market was just down the road, and we thought, well, great, in a Caribbean area, everyone's going to love the sauce, if we make it and take it down there to sell. Mm. So my kids would pack the bag and I would jump on a bicycle that I had and ride down to Brixton Market and thought, great, it's going to sell out and everything. And I tell you what, we just completely bombed. No one bought it. Because I'd forgotten that everybody make your own fucking sauce in Brixton. All right, so the key thing was to find your market. Nobody has a right to a market, ladies and gentlemen. You have to go out and find your own market. And that's what I did. I went home one day after coming back from Brixton with the bag full of saucing.
So 67 bottles?
67
How many did we sell the first time?
None.
Zero.
Zero. They were saying, Levi, don't sell us any bloody sauce so we could make our own saucing. Sell us your music because we know you for that and we love you for that, but not your sauce. And I went home one day and my son threw a map to a dark at a map of England that we got in our front room. And it landed in a place called Carmarthenshire. And I said to my kids that, well, you know what, kids? We're going to go to anywhere in the UK that had fucking Shire at the end of it. Because we know that there's no black man with no guitar jumping our hat to sing in any Reggae Reggae Sauce song. So off we went to Carmarthenshire and the rest of the shires for 2 years. It was amazing. Absolutely stole out the sauces, singing the song. People wasn't buying the sauce, they were buying into Levi Roots. And I remember I was there one day and I got to the end of my pitch, and normally when I got to the verse, so nice with your fried chicken, make burgers, finger. Exactly. There was a lady in the audience. And she came over at the end of my performance and she says, oh, Levi, absolutely fantastic. Love the sauce, love the song. And she went into her pocket and she came out with a business card and she said, would you like to be on Dragon's Den? Wow. And handed me a business card. Wow. And I was just like, what the fuck is Dragon's Den? I'd never seen the show, never even heard of it. For some reason, it kind of passed me by. She says, oh, Levi, please do take the business card. If somebody did tell you about Dragon's Den, then give us a call.
Can I stop you there to figure out, before that opportunity, from a financial perspective,
yes,
was the sauce business making money, losing money, washing its face?
It wasn't even washing its face. it was just a passion of mine that I believed in something that, that this sauce that I knew when I think of the carnival, when I think of the people that came to my stall in the carnival, I knew that there was customers out there that would love, this Jamaican concept that's about storytelling. It's about me as a musician. It's about music and food. So I was having a great time within that 2 years of trying to sell it in Brixton and going to the Shire. It wasn't really making money.
No.
But I had found my passion, that I was telling my grandmother's story. I was doing something that I felt I would bring something new to the customers. And that's why I kept going. But it wasn't really even washing its face.
So when she handed you
losing money.
When she handed you the card, was there an element of you, when she said, would you like to be on Dragon's Den, was there elements of you that was like, I don't deserve to be on Dragon's Den, or I'm not there yet? Or
no, actually it was the opposite, because when I went home that day, my kids normally sort of take these cards that I collect when I go out to these shires and come back. And one of my daughters, she saw the blue BBC card, and she was jumping up and down. My dad, it's Dragon's Den, it's Dragon. And I'm like, what the fuck is this Dragon's Den you guys talking about? And then I said to the kids that, look, this will give me an opportunity to take the guitar on the show.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, Dad, whatever you do, don't take that bloody guitar from the show. Nobody had ever sang on the show before. My kids were tapping into YouTube and trying to make me see what Dragon's Den was. Is that, look, Dad, this is how horrible Peter Jones can be, and Duncan Bannatyne is a Scottish bastard, and all kind of different stuff that, people that had stories about Dragon's Den was, and I refused to watch it. I just thought that, look, this will give me an opportunity.
So you hadn't seen the show?
I still hadn't seen it, and I refused to look it up on YouTube where my kids were telling me how bad it was, because I felt like I wanted to go and bring something different to the show.
But you knew there was an opportunity.
Absolutely.
So what's very interesting for us, Levi, we had Karen Brady on the show, and if you were familiar with her, she was on...
I know Karen.
Yeah. So Karen came on the show, and she sat where you are right now. And I don't know if you guys remember, I asked Karen, I said, Karen was made CEO of what did football?
Crystal Palace,
yeah. At 23, I think. And I don't know if you guys remember, I said to her, when you were made the whatever at 23, Levi, she almost, like there was no part of her. I said to her at 23, did you feel some element of imposter syndrome or whatever, without skipping a beat, much like Levi just did? She was like, none, zero. I had so much self-belief in myself. Yeah. She said it a little bit different to me, but you remember that. And when you said that to me, when I said to you, hey, were you nervous, whatever, and that response, and I think whenever we have someone up here, I'm always so struck by how much self-belief they had in their product or service. Even at this point, where Levi hadn't been making any money from it, he still believed. What's the word? Believe. So that's what I mean. I wanted to ask that question for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all. And so we decided that, well, I tried to get people to say, for me to be me, to agree to, because I was saying to a lot of people that I'm better when I'm me, and I have my guitar, and I feel like I want to go on this TV show and sing a song. And it was just like nobody had ever sang on Dragon's Den. I'm going to be the one that gets slain if I ever take the guitar on there.
Yeah.
So I went to see my mom. It was the night before I actually went on the show that Pete was still telling me that it might be a mistake if I gamble my musical career and everything that people kind of love me for and all that by going on the show. So I went to see my mom, as you do when you're in a bit of a kerfuffle. I went to see her, and I got to the door, and I remember she's seen a look on my face that I was worried about something. Because really, I went to see her to ask her for 20 quid, because I couldn't even afford to pay the bloody taxi fare the next morning where I was going to the den. So I went to see her, and just as I was about to ask her, Mom, can I borrow 20 quid? She said, go and pick up the Bible. I said to her, Mom, you're telling me to pick up the bloody Bible, and I'm going on the most important journey of my life in the morning. She said, go and pick up the Bible. So as all Caribbean mothers, guys, they have a Bible in the front room in there. So I went into the front room and I saw the Bible. So I said, what shall I do? She said, read Psalm 23. And I'm still fighting. I'm saying, Mom, you're telling me to read bloody Psalm 23, and all I want to do is ask you for 20 quid, and so I can go to this Dragon's Den in the morning. She said, read Psalm 23. So I don't know, you guys here, you must know some of you must know Psalm 23. So I started to read them and I said, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And she says, stop there, just at the bit where I shall not want. She says, if you go to the Dragon Den and you be you, never mind what everybody else, because she knew that everybody was saying to me, don't go on the show because nobody had ever sang and I wanted to sing. She says, if you go as you will come back as a dragon slayer. And I was just like, damn, mom, that's back some lyrics there. Come back to the dragon slayer. Then she gave me the immortal message that really helped me to do everything. She said, don't undermine who you are by comparing yourself with someone else. It's because you are different why you will be special. So never set your goal by what other people deem important, because only you can become the best of you. And never take for granted the amazing person that you are. And those words were just really lifted me in a way that I'd never felt before. This coming from my mom. That I left her that night. I didn't even remember to ask her for the bloody 20 quid. So the following morning, I actually still called the taxi and I still didn't have the money to pay the taxi. Wow. I did what we called back in the day a skanking the taxi, which is taking the taxi, you still didn't have a fucking money to pay for it. And when I got to Dragon's Den, I explained to him that I didn't have the money to pay him, but I couldn't take the bus because I had my guitar and I had the sauces and everything. So it was just an inspired moment. And I got there and I said to him that, look, I'm going inside and I feel like I'm going to slay those bastards. And he didn't really believe me. Like, he said, get out the bottle. Come. And I went in, and that was my journey. Started there to be Dragon Day.
Wow. So you got in the taxi, you didn't have money to pay.
Didn't have the money to pay, no.
Just your guitar?
Just my guitar, the sauce, and that mentally from my mom. Don't undermine yourself by comparing who you are with someone else.
Oh, that's powerful. So talk to us a little about the journey then. I don't even know who invested.
Peter, lovely Peter Jones. I think
Peter went to school here in Windsor.
Yeah. That Peter Jones, lovely Peter Jones. I think Peter kind of felt a bit sorry for me because all the stuff that was happening in the day at the time, it was just terrible. It really was. Theo Prophetus, you all know Theo. Theo Prophetus thought that we could have a go at me. And his first words were, Levi Roots. What a wonderful name. Is that your real name? And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it was a time that I was thinking that, please God, swallow me up. Because I'm going to have to reveal on live TV that my name is fucking Keith. I looked in the left-hand corner when I got to the song and I was singing, and I got to look to see if the dragons are real, if the music is doing what I felt it should have done. And I saw Richard Farley, which is a fabulously rich Australian guy that sits on the left. In those days. When I got to the verse of, it's so nice, I had to name it twice, I looked up just to see what was happening. And I saw Richard doing what I call a little white man jug. He was like, he was tapping on his desk with a weird look on his face because he couldn't believe that somebody has actually changed the mold and was actually singing a song. And then I took another look on the right and I saw this amazing tall gentleman, 6'7" tall, wearing a lovely suit and plus stripy socks as well too, as Peter. And I think Peter saw that I was struggling a bit with the numbers.
Yeah.
And the BBC asked the cameras to cut. And they asked me if I wanted to go to the back to have a little moment to myself. So I did yes. And I went to the back, and the only person that I could think that I could pray to kind of give me a little bit of vibes so I can go back on was my grandmother. So I just went back there and was asking, am I doing the right thing with her bloody recipe? I knew what was about to happen. And I went back out, and Richard Farley said that he in was 25,000. And in came Peter like an angel. He is the most amazing man that I know. He literally came in and swooped me off my feet, and said that he's not investing in the stars. He's invested in me by me. He's giving me that trust to be with me throughout thick and thin. And it was the most amazing partnership to have there. Because 18 months just after Dragon, then Richard Farley wanted to sell his shares. Because
So Peter and Richard invested.
Peter and Richard, 25,000 each. So I had my 50,000 that I asked for on the day. But I had to end up giving away an extra 20%.
For the 50.
For the 15. If I originally went in just to be 20%.
Yeah.
No, like 40%.
Or the triple did.
Yeah. So I ended up giving extra 40%. But that extra 40% got me these two amazing dragons. Absolutely fantastic to have Peter. Even though I'd never known Peter before, and I knew that someone like a Peter would have never come around to SW9 in Brixton when I was a kid, and I felt like I could do something special and was always putting my hands up and said, hey, I can hold on to a job, should I be so lucky to get one? Or, will somebody spot me? I feel like I can be something. I've got this sauce and that. Someone like Peter would never have come. So I would have had to gone to see him in the day.
Yeah.
And Peter invested in me, gave me the money, and the rest of history. It's just been an amazing relationship between him and I.
So I don't know if you guys picked it up, but when Levi spoke about Peter believing in you, tell us what that felt like when someone, I mean, obviously you weren't making any money with the sauce. You couldn't pay for the taxi on the way there. And then someone's like, I'm investing in you. Yeah. How did you feel?
Well, mentoring is the most amazing thing, because I always thought that all I needed was the money. And I think that most people think that when you have your business or you think of your idea, you just need the money. But actually, I found out that the money was not the best tool.
Right.
Because money falls through the very clenched, distilled water. And soon you're wondering, where is that investment or where that money is gone? But what I needed to do is to learn how to use the money. Should I be so lucky to get my hands on it? And having someone like a Peter, one of the most amazing businessmen in this country, to not invest in the product. Unlike Richard, who invested in the product, because 18 months later, Richard wanted to sell his share. And it was a good thing that I managed to buy the shares back for I got it from Richard. Yeah. But because Peter had invested in me, we had become this amazing double act. We've become this partnership of two unlikely fellows that perhaps, it's a weird one, but it works really well.
Are you still in partnership with Peter?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was with him. We just celebrated 20 years a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's all over the internet. Peter had his 20th year. Oh, yeah. And it's just amazing things we met. And actually, he rose 20 million for his Peter Jones Foundation.
Wow.
Which was absolutely fantastic for him and for the foundation. And for that friendship that we have and for that big business partnership that we formed out of that moment at Dragon's Den.
Great. What have you learned from Peter when it comes to business? What was kind of the first few steps? Because I imagine you had this concept,
yes.
It was losing money. What is take us through like the first 3, 4, 5 months. What do you think and in that kind of speak to a little bit about some foundations of business that you learned from him that have stayed you in good stead?
Well, I think the key thing that I learned from Peter was about outsourcing and magical thing, guys. And if you have a business and you're thinking of getting to that next level, I suggest that you check out outsourcing. You probably may know it already. My moment of outsourcing came when the sauce was still, I got the investment, but the next thing was, how do we take this sauce from making it in my kitchen to the levels of where it needs to be? And I remember Justin King, chief of Stainsbury's, gave us a call and says, take to Peter, bring Levi to see him. And off we went to Sainsbury's in Alperton and to see Justin King, amazing guy. And I remember Peter and Justin is having a little chat in his office, about numbers. Because if you've seen Dragon's Den guy, you know that I don't know fuck all about numbers. So they're having a little chat about numbers. And I'm outside remembering that I'd left the kids at home still making that 67 bottle, that perfect ready sauce that every onion is cried with, every Scotch bonnet is kissed and it's really personal for that 67 bottles. So all I could think about while Peter and Justin was having a shot outside, that's like, please God, don't let him order anything over 67 bottles. Justin King came out of his office and it is, Levi, I absolutely wanted me. He saw Dragons and I was working it with my son. And I'm going to make a nice little order to show that Sainsbury's really do invest in new businesses. And then he says, could you please deliver 250,000 bottles? I just said, what are you doing that kind of instance? Bearing in mind that I couldn't say to Justin King, chief of the second biggest store in the country, that he's going to wait a year or so until I build a factory with my 50,000 that I got with Dragons from Dragons then, and then I'll deliver 250,000 bottles of salt in a couple of years' time. You got to think really quick, and really think about Rieder. And it was that moment that Peter just came outside and he saw the look on my face that I'm thinking that I'm going to have to go home and get the fucking whip out to the kids' lap. Make that sauce. He saw that look that we were wondering that how we going to do this. You can't tell Justin King you got to wait for the year. You got to come up with something really proper. And Peter just started outsourcing. He just said back, I have become, within that week or so, the BBC has told us that it is the most popular Dragons Den episode that ever been watched, since the conception of the show. So Peter's idea was that, well, we can walk into any sauce company in the UK and give them the license to produce the amount of sauce that we needed. So we went to a company called AB World Foods, which they make Tate and Lyle and Tate and Lyle sugar, Jordan biscuits, the whole works. One of the biggest sauce companies in the country. And before I knew it, the sauce was being made. They took on the deal. The sauce was made, and within a matter of 3 weeks, I was back into Justin King. So here you are, sir. 250,000 bottles of Reggae Reggae Sauce. And within a matter now of the next 3 or 4 weeks, while it was in Sainsbury's exclusively, I had another call from Justin. Levi Roots, I've got absolutely amazing news for you. Your Reggae Reggae Sauce. I mean, he couldn't even pronounce reggae sauce. He's so posh, Justin. He says, your Reggae Reggae Sauce is outselling Heinz tomato ketchup.
Wow.
I'm just like, are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to be a dreadlocks Rastaman from Brixton on the street of SW9 and have a sauce that's outselling the biggest selling sauce in the fucking country? Of course you are. Business doesn't belong to anyone. Anyone can do it, but we just need to have those moments and have the right mentorship in place. And I had it in Peter Jones. And the sauce now is still the biggest Caribbean brand in the country. Wherever you go in the UK, you will be able to find Reggae Reggae Sauce.
Oh, wow. That deserves a round of applause, eh? Wow, that's awesome. I'm just interested from a logistical perspective, that first order you got, would the sauce company give you credit? Would they also saw in the vision?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question, because with outsourcing, I think one of the things that puts off a lot of people, but didn't put near, is that you will have to leave some equity.
So that they take some equities from the deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then losing that bit of equity, it depends if you're thinking short term. Short term thinking, it won't look nice to you.
Yeah.
Because you're losing some.
Yes.
But I wasn't thinking short term. I was thinking 10, 20 years ahead.
Yeah.
To be able to lose some equity, to be able to have Reggae Reggae Sauce in every store within 8 months across the UK. Because that deal in Sainsbury's was only lasting for 6 months. And after the 6 months, it was rolled out to Tesco's as the greatest names in supermarket, like every small shops within the country. So it was a fantastic thing to see the journey of my grandmother's sauce from my kitchen in Brixton into now around the UK in every store. So, and long-term thinking was the key thing to that. Because now we're celebrating 20 years of that moment. It's been absolutely fantastic. And that equity which I've had to sort of give away to AB World Foods in the start, it's a bit like nothing that way it comes to. We've override that. So it is a beautiful thing when you get that good advice to be able to be thinking in business that even yourself are not even thinking of. But if you get a good mentor on board, they will be able to think of those possibilities.
Total, do you know how many bottles or how much revenue, or is there some type of headline figure you have?
You can't. we just can't count the amount of butter.
Millions.
20 millions of butter. As I said, it is what it is. It's a phenomenon. Even now, I still pinch myself sometimes, and I just think to myself that unfortunately my grandma passed away when I was about 16 years old, 4 or 5 years after I arrived in the UK. So I didn't get a chance. She would get a chance for really to perceive the success of something that she had inspired.
Yeah.
And where it had got to now. But I got to say that sometimes when I think of how this was done, not just for me, but for Caribbean food, which is different and it's a bigger picture. Because now Caribbean ingredients and restaurants and everything are all popping up all over the country. When I started on Dragon's Den in 2007, you had to walk miles to find a Caribbean restaurant. I think now it's not too difficult to find it, whether it's online or it's on the doorstep. And I like to think that because of Peter's and my journeys with the sauce that allowed Caribbean food to have that platform of, mainstream people in this country are thinking of Caribbean and they really have this little sauce in the cupboard.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask you about what percentage of your success would you attribute to personal brand / your secret sauce as you and the person towards skill set and the sauce flavor and the recipe? If you had to talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I know that's a really good question as well too. I think about that quite often, but I've always said that the sauce cannot sell itself.
Yeah.
The investment won't come into the invention. It will come into the inventor. And I think it's important for us to recognize that when we're thinking of taking on a business, whether you are building a business based upon the business plan or whether you're creating a brand. Because investors will always invest in people. And I've seen it not just in my case, not just in Dragon's Den as well, which is that what it's about. I think for someone like in particular Peter, who will always invest in the person because he knows that even if the product is not that up there, if you have a good salesman, you'll be able to sell anything, and that's a business acumen. So I always say to people that build the brand first, and then you worry about what you're trying to sell with it. But it is about you and your personality and how you can convey. Because you're not just selling it to the customers, you're also working to the distribution, the manufacturers, and you've got to come across to them as somebody who they trust. But in particularly, if you're relying upon needing a loan from the bank, you go into the bank to get a loan. It's not about the product that the bank is going to give you, your advance with. It's how you as the person come across to the brand manager. So I always say that build the brand first, and the brand should be around you. The brand has to be you. You are the representative of what the product is.
Got it. Awesome. Guys, come up.
Anyway, thank you so much. That was absolutely fascinating. What's your measure of the personal success? When you talk about being successful, there's the headline numbers and to make yourself, but for you, what does success mean to you? What's your goal? Is it to be able to do great things? Is it to be able to walk down the street playing your guitar and be recognized for your accomplishments? Is it so that your grandmother can look down and have a smile? What's your measure of your personal success?
That's a big question. You know what? I'm kind of aware to what especially young people, feel about myself. I could literally feel the vibes coming from young people when I was on that event. For them to see somebody who was brave enough, or can I use the word cool enough, to be able to be himself. So when I came off the show, I realized that 80% of people that were buying the sauce were young people, were going in the stores and buying the sauce. And then I came with a drink called Caribbean Crush. And we found the same thing, identity through our research, that the majority of young people buying into the product. For now, I go anywhere to young people. I spend most of my time now in schools, colleges, universities, and prisons, wherever there is young people that I can tell my story that if I can do it, then anyone can do it. And I think that is my mission now. That the proudest moment that I feel is that the customers who are buying into the brand or someone that really feels that the brand is doing something for them. It's not like how we have our favorite cologne and then we go and buy Chanel or what have you. And the owners are not even aware of who we are as a people. They don't, you know what I'm saying? For me, it's about trying to give back to those, as well as I recognize of what is being for Caribbean food. You know, as a Caribbean person as well too, I know how it is, especially in those days back when there was many people of color like me being successful in moments like that. I think when I was on, it was a magical moment to Caribbean people to see someone looking like them being successful. Because we know the saying, if you can't see it, then you can't be it. And I think when I was on, it gave a lot of young people a chance now. And I get messages from them all the time. I mean, just the other day, I had a young man fentanyl. I went to a prison where he was, and I did a talking there. And he came, I was in Westminster University, and this young man came up to me afterwards, and this was Levi. You know, it's when you came into the prison and you did your talk that I realized that I'm going to come out, I'm going to be like you and achieve. And he told me that he's got a used car company and he's making more money now than he'd ever made. And that just because that he used my words of don't undermine who you are by comparing yourself, blah, blah, blah. And he came out and he was successful. And just one, even though there are many stories, but just one story is like that. Whenever, I hear that, it just reminds me that, yeah, I'm doing the right thing and I've got the right purpose. And the purpose is not just to make more money, because I've got enough as it is. But it's just really just to give back to young people. So thank you for investing in the brand.
Good job. Good job. Give that 2 claps. Ready? Ollie?
Thank you. You've obviously had massive success throughout your life, and congratulations. I always learn a lot from the challenges people have to overcome. So I'm just curious, have you had any significant challenges both in your brand and or your products over the years?
Oh my God, man.
Sounds like a better road so far.
Not at all, because I've just mentioned prisons a minute ago. And I'm never one to shy away from the truth of my journey, because it's always been part of who I am as a person. And I have this memory in my mind in 1986 that I was in court, just about to face a heavy sentence. And the memory is of my mom being in court and wearing a red beret. And I remember the judge looked at me and he says, Mr. Brian, you're a scourge to society, and I'm going to sentence you to 9 years in prison. And when he said that, my mom let out a scream, what I always call like a banshee, a very loud sort of scream, because this was her favorite son, her youngest child, now having one of the biggest sentence that any one of us in Brixton at the time that was struggling and doing all kind of young days because we couldn't get a job and we couldn't do anything. It was the biggest sentence that was ever issued out to any one of us. And when the court officials were taking me downstairs after the judge had sentenced me, I could hear that scream from her. And it really was that scream that stayed in my head that made me think that I need to recover from this. I need to use that moment of my mom being in that deepest of stress, that if ever I'm released, my life is going to absolutely change into being someone that she can be proud of. And I remember having my first mentor when I was in prison. Her name was Teresa. She was a New Zealand lady from New Zealand that comes in as a drama teacher within the prison. And she was the person that really changed my life. She was my first mentor. She would come in every 2 weeks and she would really spend most of the time with me, because I was doing music and I was doing drama with her. And obviously she a drama teacher, so she drew towards me. But she decided to mentor me, and she gave me the right books to read and told me the right things. And then she said to me that when I talked to her about the name and she asked the next to react, on Levi Roots, I'm the artist. She first was going to teach me how to be the artist. And she gave me Shakespeare to read. And I remember I told her, I didn't think I Shakespeare to read. What should I do with Shakespeare? And she said I should read Brutus. Now, as you know, in Shakespeare, no one likes Brutus. Brutus is the murderer, and everybody did it. She said I should concentrate on the speech that Brutus made And the one that says, there's a tide in the affairs of men, taking out the floods will lead to fortune. Omitted, all the days of your lives could be deemed in shallows and in mivering, but on such a full sea are you now afloat, and you must take the current when it serves, or lead your adventures. Now, what Brutus was saying is that you got to take the chance when it comes your way, no matter what it looks like. Because if you want to get up your desert island, you can't wait until the tide is low, when everything is nice and lovely, where you can sail off the tide that want to take you anywhere. You got to take it when the tide that is high, take that chance. And what Teresa was saying, that my chance was while I was serving that sentence, that I needed to make that chance. If I really wanted to make my mom proud, I got to take this opportunity while I was serving that sentence. And it was really her that, that gave me the strength to be able to do that. And when I came out, a few years later, when I was on a BBC show, because I was looking for her when I came out, but you're not allowed to contact back people that were to do with the prisoners when they get free. And for about 4 years, I couldn't find Teresa. And it was a bit that was missing in my life, is this mentor that had really given me the strength to come out. And I was on a BBC radio show, and I appealed that anybody have heard of this woman, they please, their contact. And someone made contact with Teresa. She was living back in New Zealand, and I managed to get a number for her, and I ran her up and I told her, this was just last year, I ran her up and I told her that there's a movie that's going to be made about my life, and she's going to be in it. And we cried for an hour on the phone, and we went through that journey that we went through. So those are the adversity that I had to go through to be able to be the Levi Roots who I am now. And the reasons why I talk about mentorship so much is because I know that it's not me that made my changes. It's the few people, like Teresa, then my grandmother, of course, and then my mom who taught me those first words. And then, of course, the amazing 6'7" tall white man with stripy socks, Peaky Jones. So these are the people that helped me to overcome my adversity and to be the person who I am now.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Another question. Here you go. Charlie, behind you.
So imagine if you were a chiropractor, right? And so say if your music would be an adjustment, right?
Yeah.
And the reggae sauce would be helping people, but we are limited by production. So how would, as a chiropractor, would you go from 67 to 250,000 bottles?
Well, as I said, it is about the inspiration that you have to make changes in your life, or to adjust your business to be the best of what it is. It's about how the adjustments is made and how you as a person function with your patients or with the people that's around you. And again, what I was saying, about you need to be somebody who factors the people that you care about into your own life. Like I was saying about, I know that the customers who are buying in Reggae Reggae Sauce are the people that I care about the most, which is young people, because they're the one that go and buy it. And my business is surrounding that. I never think of Roots Reggae Reggae Sauce Limited as a conglomerate, even though we're a massive business, worth millions and millions of pounds. But I always think of it's just me, we. And that allows me, when I give my message out there, it becomes personal. Yes, there's Peter and there are other people that are involved in the business. But I think giving myself totally to these young people that I go and I see now and I talk to them. And many universities, I've been given 3 doctorates over the past 2 years. And for the reason of me, I can't think of someone calling me Dr. Roots. But it's really always just trying to be the best in your case for patients, me, for my customer. And it comes back that way that they keep buying into who I am as a person.
Good job. Last question. Can they go? Fred, me.
Hi, thanks very much for the talk. It's very inspirational. You've obviously come from quite an interesting, unique place by being through prison, but obviously coming out of prison, what was your kind of key mindset that helped you, I guess, when success wasn't guaranteed even, you hadn't necessarily even thought about things potentially, but what helped you go from where you're at to putting yourself on live TV?
Yeah. It's still all about mentors, you know. I remember when I came out, my license was set and I had to go and live back with my mom. And I was there one day and I was telling her that I'm thinking of, you know, putting down the music and going with Nana's son. Nana is my grandmother. Her name is Miriam Reed. And so my mom said to me, go and see the man. She always talks in riddles, my mom. You know, she says, go and see the man. So I'm like, who's the man? What do you mean, go and see the man? She says, go and see the man. And I didn't know that Nelson Mandela was visiting Brixton at the time. And that's who she is talking about, the man. She said, go and see the man. Nelson Mandela was talking in the Brixton Wreck, which is just about, 400 or 500 yards away from where we live, in Acre Lane in Brixton. And so when she said, go and see the man, and I could get an inspiration of how I should live my life, I came out of the house and I went onto Acre Lane and I saw literally thousands of people walking from Clapham Junction, that they were on the junction or waiting for Mandela. And then they all walked down Acre Lane to the Brixton Wreck. So I came out of where we lived on the side road and I joined these thousands of people going down to the Brixton Wreck. And we got down there and I was just thinking that I was just an ordinary person in a crowd of thousands. Mandela was there on his birthday. He was there with Prince Charles coming to visit Brixton. And I remember being in the crowd. I was almost near the front of the crowd. And one of the security guards spotted me in the crowd because it was Mandela's birthday. And they wanted to form a group of people to sing happy birthday, Mr. President. And the security guard said, there's Levi Roots in the audience, because he didn't need involved in music and everything. So the crowd, kind of helped me to get me onto the stage of the Brixton Wreck. And I was crowd surfed, beating up my ass and everything. And I was plumped onto the Brixton Wreck stage. And as Mandela was coming down the escalator, with Prince Charles behind him, he seemed to be like floating on here, absolutely. Like Mandela, perhaps he was the most amazing person at the time. And he had been released from prison just before myself. And when I was there, I was looking into his life and reading his books and everything. And he was floating down the escalator coming down the Brixton Wreck. And I stood at the bottom of the escalator with the birthday cake, singing happy birthday, Mr. President, like Marilyn Monroe singing. The quivering lips and everything. I couldn't help it. I was like, happy birthday, Mr. President. And he came down the stairs and shook my hand. And I handed him the cake and said, happy birthday. And it was a moment. It was one of these other magical moments that I said about mentorship and about people to help to change your life, the right people that he. And I couldn't have had any better person to sort of consolidate it. But I need to make that change to make my mom proud, because Mandela had done it. Come out and literally become president of his country and leading his people. And here I am, I promised my mom after hearing that screaming, and it was still ringing in my ears. And I need to make that change. I think that was the first moment that knew me when I shook Mandela's hand and I realized that this is greatness here. And if I want to do anything like what I promised my mom, I'm going to have to emulate someone like a Mandela. And it was one of the most great moments of Mandela. I'm like a kid that I never washed my hand for weeks because the great man had shook my hand.
And if your mom
saved my life. So it's about mentorship again.
And if your mom never said, go see the man,
I wouldn't even have known that, man. I would have been in the house, because when I came out of prison, I was just like, just staying in, and I was just thinking of making joins of the bottle of the sauce that I wanted to do, because I'd just come out thinking that that's what I want to do now and things. So if she hadn't said that, go and see the man, I probably would never have known Mandela was there.
I always thought you were cool. But now that I know you're saying happy birthday to my hero, and I always said, growing up in South Africa, it was always my dream to meet Mandela, and I never got to meet him. So, so that incredible experience.
Yeah, absolutely.